Story 1. The Man in the Grocery Store. My name's Alyssa, and this happened to me in 2022 when I had just moved into my first apartment in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was 22, fresh out of college, and working full-time at a dental office while trying to adjust to living on my own. The apartment complex I moved into wasn't anything fancy. Old brick buildings, front doors facing the parking lot, ground-level windows that made me a little uneasy. But it was what I could afford. It was a Thursday night, around 9 p.m., when I realized I was out of milk and bread. I decided to make a quick trip to the Food Lion about 10 minutes from my place. I threw on a hoodie and headed out. I figured I'd be back in 20 minutes tops. The store was almost empty. I remember there was a cashier up front and a couple of older shoppers in the frozen foods aisle. As I made my way toward the dairy section, I noticed a man standing in the cereal aisle. He caught my attention because he wasn't moving, just standing there with a red basket that had nothing in it. He looked maybe mid-40s, thin, pale skin, wearing a gray hoodie that was pulled over his head even though it was warm outside. At first, I thought he was waiting for someone. But when I turned into another aisle, I saw him again, this time near the yogurt, just watching. That's when I started to feel uncomfortable. I grabbed what I needed and rushed to the checkout. As I waited in line, I noticed him again, directly behind me, still with an empty basket. He didn't say anything, just stood too close. When I left, I quickly got in my car, locked the doors, and started the engine. That's when I noticed him again, walking out of the store empty-handed. He didn't come toward me. He just stopped at the edge of the sidewalk and stood there, looking in my direction. No phone, no groceries, just standing there, staring. I left as quickly as I could, taking a few random turns to make sure I wasn't being followed. I even drove through a gas station before heading back to my apartment. When I finally pulled into my complex, I didn't see anyone around. I went inside, locked the door, and tried to shake it off. About 45 minutes later, while I was watching TV on the couch, I heard a faint tap on the window. I paused the show. The tapping came again, slow and deliberate. I live on the first floor, and my blinds were closed, but I could still make out the outline of someone standing there. I crawled across the floor and peeked through a small gap in the blinds. It was the man from the store. He was standing perfectly still, just inches from the glass, his hoodie now pulled tighter around his face. I couldn't see his eyes clearly, but I knew he was looking right at me. I backed away and called 911. The dispatcher stayed on the line while I waited for the police. I didn't dare look back out the window. When officers arrived, the man was gone. They searched the area and filed a report, but there wasn't much they could do. I didn't have a license plate or a name, just a face I hoped I'd never see again. The next morning, I bought a security camera and a thick wooden dowel to jam in the window track. I never went back to that grocery store. I started shopping during the day, always keeping my phone in my hand. The scariest part is that I never saw him follow me. I was careful, took turns, changed directions. Either he was just that good at tailing me, or he had already seen me before that night. Maybe at work. Maybe in the parking lot of my apartment. I'll never know. But I still can't look at my window at night without thinking of that tap. Now, here's story 2. The Girl from My Night Class. My name's Carter, and this happened during my sophomore year at Montclair State in New Jersey. It was 2019, and I was juggling a full course load while working part-time at a bookstore downtown. To make things work with my schedule, I ended up taking a night class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Psych 240, from 6 to 9 p.m. The class was in Dixon Hall, a building tucked away near the edge of campus. It was one of those places that felt abandoned at night, with flickering hallway lights and vending machines that always seemed to be humming too loud. That's where I first noticed her. Her name, I later found out, was Clara. She showed up out of nowhere midway through the semester. Always wore the same black hoodie with the hood pulled tight. She started sitting closer to me each class, never talking, never taking notes, just sitting there with this intense, distant stare. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she was new, maybe socially anxious. But then I started seeing her outside of class, once at the coffee shop near the English building, even though I never saw her talk to anyone. Then again, standing across the street from the bookstore where I worked. It started to feel like more than coincidence. One night after class, I was walking back to my car. I had to park farther away that evening, when I heard soft footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there she was, just standing under a flickering street lamp, maybe 20 feet back, her face half covered by her hood. I mumbled a quick "hey" and picked up the pace. She followed, not fast, but just enough to keep close. I didn't stop walking until I reached my car, locked the door behind me, and drove off. The next morning, I skipped class. I emailed my professor and told him I had a personal issue and would catch up with notes online. For a few days, I didn't see Clara. I thought maybe it was over. Then the messages started. First, an Instagram DM from a blank account. "You looked tired today." Then another. "You're more jumpy when you're alone. I like it." I blocked each account, but they just kept popping up. Different usernames, same kind of creepy, overly personal messages. I went to campus security, but they told me, unless she had threatened me, they couldn't do much. Then, the worst part. I came back to my apartment one Sunday evening and found a black notebook left in front of my door. I thought maybe it was something a roommate dropped, until I saw the first page. "You didn't say goodbye." The pages that followed were filled with notes. Long, rambling paragraphs about me, what I wore, what time I left for class, what I ate. One page had a sketch of me in class. Another had the words, "We belong together," written over and over like something out of The Shining. I took it to the police. This time, they took it seriously. After investigating, they confirmed Clara had withdrawn from the psych class months ago. She wasn't even supposed to be in the building. She had been showing up just to watch me. They issued a no-contact order and banned her from campus. I moved to a new apartment a few weeks later and scrubbed my social media. I haven't seen or heard from Clara since. But every now and then I still get a message from an unknown account. No name, no followers. Just one word. "Hi. If you made it this far, you're one of the brave ones." Don't forget to like the video if it gave you chills, subscribe for more true horror every week, and drop a comment below. Tell me, what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? Until next time, keep your doors locked and your eyes open.